The scorching heat of summer has finally arrived in the US again. And if you're a furry, that can only mean two things. One, if you're gonna go outside in suit, you're more than likely gonna burst into flames. And two, it is officially the start of Pooltoy season. And I'm not just talking about regular pool toys that you can buy at the store. I'm referring to custom air-filled works of art. But what do inflatables and furries have to do with each other in the first place? And why do furries love pool toys?
Do any of you remember the childhood days at the swimming pool where you and your friends would compete to see who could do the coolest cannonball? Or maybe see who could hold their breath underwater the longest? And then, all of a sudden, the new coolest kid at the swimming pool walks in with a brand new pool toy in tow. And you, being completely pool toyless, couldn't help but feel a little bit jealous. No? Just me? Well, we're at least all familiar with the idea of what a pool toy is. They're usually in the shape of a whale or a dolphin, a dog or a turtle, something like that. And they were a great way for us to enjoy the pool without having to just swim the whole time. You could just sit back and relax. Or if your friends were like mine, we would fight over it to see who could stay on top of it the longest without being bucked off. But as we grew up, we traded in the whale for a mat that we could lounge on top of. And our trusty pool toy got tossed in the garage just to collect dust for years. So, why is it that we see pool toys all over the furry fandom? And not just around the pool, I mean like everywhere. And they're not just any pool toys. They're the nicest pool toys money can buy. All right, now I think there are really three main reasons why pool toys are such a big deal in the furry fandom. But before we jump into why, we need to know how we even got here. Like many of the subcommunities that we have in the furry fandom, it all started small. From the late 1990s into the early 2000s, the internet allowed furries from all over the world to connect with one another, sharing their love for anthropomorphic animal characters. And from that, smaller subcommunities began to take shape under the furry umbrella. Music furries, dance furries, storm-chasing furries, and even pool toy furries. They would chat about their favorite pool toy brands, share pictures of their collections, and maybe even make a pool toy fursona. Sometimes there would even be small meetups at con hotel rooms so that way they could show off their toys and trade them. But the selection of toys was usually limited to off-the-shelf toys made by companies like Intex and Best Way, designed to be cheap, seasonal, and arguably disposable. And because they were made for kids, they had this thin vinyl and were held together with really weak pinch seams, and so whenever you put the weight of a full adult on it, they would usually pop open. If pool toy furries wanted something that was more durable or more furry, modding these toys was really the only option. You could reinforce seams and make minor adjustments and additions to the toys, but you were still kind of just stuck with what was being made by the big box companies. But there was definitely a market for larger, sturdier, and custom pool toys. Over the next few years, groups of friends would start to pool money together, and then they would design their own toys and put in direct orders to inflatable toy factories. This is how companies like Puffy Paws started, kickstarting what I would consider the golden age of pool toys, made for furries by furries. Every single year, new toys were being designed, made, and shipped out. And each new edition would build off of what the previous runs did right and what they didn't. And not just changing the look of the toys, we're talking about changing the engineering behind inflatable pool toys.
One of the things that I didn't really know much about until I got a little bit deeper into the pool toy community is that the shape of a pool toy has a lot to do with how durable it's gonna be. So if we take this beach ball and we start adding air into it, it's gonna be pushed out in all directions. And because it's a sphere, it's gonna get even pressure all the way across the material. There's not gonna be like a spot here that's getting more stress than over here. But if you want to make an animal and you start adding things like a head, tail, legs, well, things get a little bit more complex.
With more complex pool toys, you have to start worrying about things like negative curves, or any part of the toy that curves in towards the center. It creates areas of high stress and puts a lot of strain on the seams, and many pool toy enthusiasts know that pinch seams and negative curves mean one thing: leaks. The solution? Reinforced lap seams and designs that had less severe negative curves. Through trial and error, these small fandom-led businesses continue to improve the quality of pool toys with each new edition. Better materials, better paint, and better designs, all in the pursuit of the perfect pool toy. But all of these improvements still didn't really fix the fact that making custom pool toys is just really expensive. I mean, when it comes to manufacturing, most factories work off the premise that the more items you buy in bulk, the cheaper each individual unit costs. And with custom pieces, it's not as simple as just uploading a design and hitting a button. Boom, pool toy. First, you need a reference sheet, and then the factory takes that and makes the 3D, and then the 3D is converted into 2D shapes that whenever they're cut and glued and then inflated, you get the 3D design again. Then there's deciding between the different types of printing, the paint colors, materials, seam types, assembly, paint touch-ups, quality control. You get the point. There's a lot of work that goes into making a custom pool toy, and all of that takes time and money. If you're only making one pool toy, all of that cost gets put on a single toy, making them easily cost over $1,000 for one. But if you have 100 toys being made from the same design, then the R&D cost is spread out over all the toys, making them much more affordable. And so like a lot of furry fandom-driven products, crowdfunding and pre-orders were really the only way to make these toys accessible. It had to start small, with maybe a handful of toys per run. But those early years laid the groundwork for what the furry pool toy community is today. Pictures of fursuiters with these massive inflatables started to be shared online. Toys started showing up at cons, and more art was being made with pool toys. Even full-on pool toy fursonas started popping up. No pun intended. And eventually, cons even began having dedicated panels for furries to come and show off their rare toys, take pictures, and connect with other squeaky furs. And slowly over time, more and more people began asking the question that I asked. Where can I get one of these? The only real way to get your hands on some of these early toys was by buying from collectors or getting into a pre-order from the early makers. But the demand kept snowballing as new furries were introduced to this super niche hobby, and the list of companies making high-quality pool toys expanded to fill this brand new market. Now we have Puffy Paws, Fenod Toy, Wet Nose Squeak, Inflatable World, Imaginary Creature Factory, and many, many more. Each one of them offering their own unique flavor of what furry pool toys can be. And now there are more pre-orders for toys than I can even keep up with. We have standing toys, laying toys, anther toys, small toys, giant toys, wearable toys. We've come so far from having just a bunch of Intex orcas. No hate on the OG, but these toys are a massive upgrade. Like, I genuinely don't think a lot of pool toy furries know how good we have it now. A little over 20 years ago, none of this existed. Today's pool toy community seems to be exploding in popularity. And I don't know that I would consider it mainstream in the fandom, but you would be really hard-pressed to find a furry convention that doesn't have at least one pool toy panel, or someone walking around with one strapped on their back. Alright, so all of this is great, but it really doesn't answer the question as to why furries like pool toys in the first place. And some of them literally spend hundreds of dollars on one toy. Some of their collections can be more expensive than my car. And I can already see it now, a bunch of you in the comments furiously typing away that it's a kink. And while yes, that might be true for some furries, I think it's much more than that. At least for me, I think the appeal comes down to three main things: art, comfort, and collecting. No matter where you look in the furry fandom, you are always going to be surrounded by art. Illustrations, video games, movies, music, dance, and fursuits. Fursuit makers take character concepts and make them a reality. They're basically walking sculptures, and I would argue that pool toys are just another extension of what furry art can be. Vinyl, rubber, and air are just another medium to create art. A great example of this is the Balloon Museum. They have all kinds of interactive air-filled exhibits. I was lucky enough to be able to go with a group of friends and see it in fursuit, and we had an absolute blast. It was so cool to see how different artists can use balloons and inflatables to create such a unique experience. The museum has a bit of a catchphrase that I absolutely love. Art has no limits. And pool toys are proof of that. Inflatables are basically just 3D art pieces that you can physically interact with. It's like having your own personal cartoon character that has built-in tune physics. They bounce, they deform, you can sit on them, you can hug them, you can even take pictures with them, which I would highly recommend because they make great fursuit props. And for furries, after a more personal touch, you can even work with pool toy companies to make your own fursona into a pool toy. I know a ton of my friends have or are working on turning their fursona into a pool toy, including me. I worked with my wonderful friends over at Puffy Paws to bring Reverb to life as a pool toy. Now, he's based off of their existing Husky design, and that's always been a huge favorite of mine, so I was thrilled whenever they let me put Reverb's design on that base. Now, you're not going to be able to buy the Reverb design, but don't worry, they have a ton of other ones. And this isn't a sponsorship, but go check out their latest run so you can add a squeaky friend to your life. But the pool toy obsession doesn't just have to do with how they look. A lot of it has to do with how they feel as well. It probably stems from a bit of nostalgia of hanging out at the pool as a kid on top of one of your pool floaties. And for me, and a lot of other pool toy furries, the feeling of vinyl pressing back up against me just kind of feels like the gentle pressure of a hug. I know it sounds weird, but there's just something about the feeling of high quality vinyl, the smell, the squeaky sounds. It just makes me feel safe. I think it's probably similar to plushies for a lot of people, just instead of having fabric and polyfill, we have vinyl and air. And I can't tell you how many times I've had friends come over and humor me, just sit down on a pool toy and hang out, and 5 minutes later they're looking at me saying, I get it. And coming home after a long day and just lounging out on a big inflatable dog is so comfortable. But you really don't get to appreciate the full level of pool toy sensory comfort unless you're in a room filled to the brim with them. The Pool Toy Party is held at several cons here in the US with all kinds of balloons, pool toys, and plushies everywhere. Attendees are encouraged to relax in the pools that are filled with blue balloons and plushies, or hop onto one of the many LED-lit pool toys as lo-fi music fills the entire room. It's hosted by Fenod Toy, and I know the guys behind it put a ton of love into it every single con they bring it to. And, in my opinion, they have the best pool toy shirts. Just saying. And if you're attending a convention that doesn't have the Pool Toy Party, there's usually still some sort of squeak and greet where pool toy furries will meet up and show off some of their toys. And if you have a fursuit, these panels are great photo ops. There are so many different types of pool toys, a lot of which you've probably never seen before. And some of the owners will even let you hop on top of them as long as you ask for permission. Remember, some of these are one of a kind and priceless, so ask for permission and treat them with respect. Once you get your first pool toy, you develop the itch, the need for more. There's all kinds of different sizes and colors and poses of pool toys. It's almost like real life Pokemon, and you gotta catch them all. Getting your hands on a first generation Puffy Paws toy or a special clear variant is like catching a shiny. And they can shrink down for storage. I mean, my totes are basically just Pokeballs for my inflatables. And like with Pokemon cards, or really any other collectible, pool toy enthusiasts love expanding their squeaky collections. Some pool toy collections are worth thousands of dollars. I mean, depending on the complexity and quality of individual toys, they can go for a couple hundred or even over $1,000 a piece. And like a ton of other collectibles, a lot of care goes into preserving these toys to make sure they're able to be around for decades. There are specific ways to clean your toys, to fold your toys, to store toys, and even the most careful collectors still have to worry about things like paint fading and plasticizer loss. Plasticizer is an additive that when added to vinyl makes it soft and stretchy, just like this guy. Without it, he would be super stiff and brittle, which is not a great characteristic for pool toys. Toys naturally lose a small amount of it over time, but don't worry, you can treat them with additional plasticizer to get them back to their factory squeakiness. Even the most careful of pool toy owners will still encounter a pinhole leak every now and then. But luckily, there are companies like Vinyl Vibe Studios, which supply all kinds of repair supplies and plasticizer. They even invented a cleaning solution that is safe on pool toys. The general, rule of thumb is to use a dish soap that is really gentle, but even those can still leach some of the plasticizer out of the material, and this is designed to fix that problem. You can clean your pool toy friends with minimal plasticizer loss, and it just leaves them squeaky clean. It's so cool that there's so much innovation happening in the space just because we are passionate about our pool toys. Besides just making sure your squeaky friend is around for many years of some summer fun, there's also a financial incentive for collectors to keep their collections in really good condition. Many trade their mint condition, hard to find toys for other toys in order to round out their collection. Or they'll sell them years after the toy was made, some of which can be worth double or triple, if not more. Regardless of the monetary value of the toys themselves, most collectors are in it just for the love of the game, or at least I know I am. I love getting to add new squeaky friends to the family. They're just such a fun and whimsical little addition to anyone's day. And seriously, I don't know if anyone's ever had a bad day while being on a pool toy. At the end of the day, pool toys are entangled into the DNA of what makes the furry fandom awesome. The artistic expression, the unique characters, and overcoming challenges to make something from nothing. We've created a safe place for us to explore the squeaky side of life, pushing the boundary of what pool toys can be. It's what I think the fandom is all about in the first place. We come together to make something bigger than ourselves. And we're carving out our own little space in the world to laugh, cry, learn, and love. Pool toys are even the reason that I am a furry. I remember coming across the original Puffy Paws Husky and just being amazed that someone could make something like that. It was unlike anything I had ever seen at that point, and it led me down the path of learning about what the furry fandom is. And I'm totally biased, but I'm glad that more and more furries are being introduced to this niche subcommunity. Even with all its flaws, the pool toy community is filled with this childlike joy and whimsy that you can't help but love. And I don't know, I've never been in a bad mood while hanging out with one of my squeaky friends. So this summer, get out and enjoy the warm weather, and maybe add a squeaky friend to make your poolside adventures just a little bit more fun. See you guys later.